Nation on X says, Nintendo of America is reportedly outsourcing customer support, causing hundreds of contractors to lose jobs. This story went mega viral today, especially, and it kind of rolls into a lot of the, I don't want to say H-1B1 stuff, but overseas workers taking jobs from America. And it all goes back to, I hate to say this, Doug Bowser, the head of Nintendo of America, who is, in my humble opinion, single-handedly destroying this company and has full reign to do so, and nobody is stopping him. This comes to us from IGN. Nintendo customer support concern following outsourcing decision ahead of Switch 2's first holiday season. Impacted workers say they feel betrayed after years of service. This comes to us from great friend of the channel, Rebecca Valentine, which, yes, that is full of sarcasm. She says, Nintendo of America has made the decision to outsource its customer support services, resulting in hundreds of contractors losing their jobs amid concerns Nintendo's customer support will suffer as the Nintendo Switch 2 enters its first holiday season. IGN has spoken to multiple sources impacted by the decision who spoke to us on condition of anonymity due to fear of reprisal. All of them painted a picture of a formerly rigorous structure for training and maintaining customer support services in the US that was suffering significantly due to language barriers, poor communication, and Nintendo's overall decision-making on how to handle the transition from US-based support to outsourced support from South America. Now, the first question that I would have with this is why? Why is Nintendo doing this? Because when you look at Nintendo's stock in the past year, up almost 67%, and if you look at all time, it's basically at all-time highs for the valuation of Nintendo at the Tokyo Stock Exchange. And it kind of flies in the face of, oh, we need to do this desperately to save our company. No, they're trying to cut corners and lower costs at any opportunity they can find. And why is that? Let me bring you guys over to LinkedIn. Doug Bowser, President and Chief Operating Officer at Nintendo. Remember that introduction they had like 7 years ago when Fizeme and Miyamoto, they were just like handing it off to Doug Bowser saying, hey, this is the new guy in charge of Nintendo, and it's going to be in great hands with this guy. He's amazing. He's going to lead Nintendo to the promised land, even though they were great. Well, we got pronouns listed next to him, which is a massive red flag. You want to see an even bigger red flag, guys? Hold on. Let's see. Where else has he worked before? Right before Nintendo, he was at, well, that sure explains quite a bit. Electronic Arts. So the VP of Global Demand Planning from Electronic Arts, who is now in charge of Nintendo of America with a he, him pronoun, is raising prices across the board and now cutting jobs and outsourcing them to South America. Yeah, it checks out. Sources say that historically, Nintendo of America has contracted with primarily 2 US-based agencies to fill roles in back office customer support. That includes, according to one source I spoke to and verified by others, back office teams, fraud, financials, chargebacks, customer services, chat logs, customer phone and email support, refunds, account bans, remote data transfers, repair support, everything customer support. There are a few people remaining on site overseeing it, but essentially, it's all going away. Though the people in these roles were contract employees, those we spoke to say many workers had been there for years. In order to skirt laws that would have required them to hire workers full-time, Nintendo of America would contract them for 11 months at a time. At the end of the contract, they'd be, quote-unquote, let go for 2 months, during which they could draw unemployment before having their contract consistently renewed. often at a higher pay rate each time. Contractors receive some health benefits through the agency. Now, I can speak to this personally because when I worked in the industry, that was basically I was a contractor for Sony Online Entertainment as a game tester through a contractor. And then eventually I was a recruiter for that contractor. And I was very familiar with the length of time and contracts in California, specifically for my situation. I believe it was 2 years. It might have been 2 years and 2.5 months, something like that, before you had to officially let the person go and then bring them back. And the reason why that law was put into place, ironically, was to encourage companies to hire people on full time so that they would not abuse the system of contract work. But instead, what they ended up doing was, okay, we will use the legal ability to the fullest extent. We can have them on, in this case, for 11 months, let them go for 2 months, have them take money from unemployment, and then hire them back at more money, and then rinse and repeat. Never have to pay benefits for the people and have them at a lower rate while also paying money towards the agency as well. The entire situation is completely fucked, by the way. From someone who was on the inside, I will tell you guys, the rules do not help anything. They were set out. It's a classic lefty logic that the rules get enforced by. The path to hell is paved with good intentions. The reason that these laws were passed, I firmly believed, were for good intentions for the employees. But the reality is it works directly against the employee because the company will use them to fuck you over. So it's almost better to just not have the law and just let them just contract people as long as you want to. That way it doesn't draw from unemployment and they're consistently employed for a long time. It's a shitty situation, but the rules that couldn't put into place don't actually help anyone. With the Nintendo provided benefits being occasional free or discounted games. Oh, that's great. Thanks for the benefits. I broke my arm. What can you do for me? You want a free game? Everyone that I have worked with has worked here for years, said one contractor. As a result, IGN understands many of these contractors were highly skilled and experienced, specifically in working with Nintendo of America's systems and procedures. However, in March, workers were told their contracts were being cut to be phased out entirely this month. Those I spoke to were unsure of the total number of individuals impacted, but estimated the ballpark of 200 workers total. Contractors were informed through their respective agencies. Sources tell me contractors never received any direct communication from Nintendo on the subject. To be fair, they shouldn't expect to either, because if you're contracted through a third party, that you typically wouldn't hear from them on something like this, but it would have been a nice gesture for them to let them know, but not expected. Not a thank you, not an I'm sorry, nothing, said one. Well, I mean, may I again direct you to, I know we just went over this, but Doug Bowser, formerly of Electronic Arts. And you're going to tell me you're looking for someone that has some humanity in them? This guy does not give a shit about you. You are a dollar sign to him, and that dollar sign is too expensive. And he needs to find a way to get rid of you to appease the shareholders while also agreeing to jack up the prices of games across the board and console prices and peripherals, and then blame it on tariffs and Orange Man bad. Because they are contract employees, they do not receive severance pay, even if their contracts are ending early, which is fucked, by the way. There's no rights for employees when you're contracted. They take full abuse of you, like overwhelmingly. Contractors whose contracts run through September are still working their usual jobs, but with a new duty added. They now have to help train their replacements. I got to tell you guys, when I was working as a recruiter on the West Coast for the games industry, my coworker, who I was really tight with because it was like a tag team, me and him would take care of a lot of the companies together. It was basically me and him with a few other people outside of us and our boss, but it was basically me and him. And we had like a running joke where he'd be like, Yeah, we're gonna need to have you train a new person to take your job for you. That's actually why we're bringing bringing you in. We actually like cracked up over it because it was never actually like a thing, but it was just one of those we always joke like, "Oh, this could happen." Here it is actually happening. Those we spoke to shared that Nintendo of America appears to have cut contracts in the US only to outsource the jobs to workers in South America, primarily Brazil, but also other countries such as Argentina and Nicaragua. While Nintendo of America has previously employed support staff in these countries in the past, they were limited to first line contacts who would then pass information to departments in the US for cases to be handled in full. But now, these workers are more fully taking on customer support cases. While they are receiving assistance from US workers, those I spoke to say this process has been challenging and frustrating for everyone involved. And there are concerns that customer support quality will suffer long term. I would say, yeah, that's a massive concern based off of my experience with out of country employment. It's not an improvement ever. We're expected to finish contracts that are deemed too difficult for new agents. For one U.S. contractors, for one, U.S. contractors tell me that Nintendo of America has previously had rigorous standards it held customer support workers to. However, they say those standards seem to be different, less rigorous for the new hires. And the U.S. contractors report often being called in to resolve issues on their behalf. One U.S. contractor also told me that feedback provided to supervisors of the new group of the contractors did not seem to be making it to the agents. The training of our replacements by existing agents is something that has never been done with new hires before, they said. New hires were previously brought in on large groups and whittled down to the best 3 or 7 agents. While help was always available to new agents, there was always an expectation to see a contract through to the end, unless something urgent or sensitive was found, in order to ensure that every agent knew how to do everything. Now we are expected to finish contacts that are deemed too difficult for new agents. Another issue is the language barrier. I'm not going to go through this whole article because it goes on forever and ever. But the basic takeaway from this situation goes back to Nintendo's greed. And all signs point to Doug Bowser. And while the books might look incredible financially, you got to worry about the long-term effects that it has against the company. This is fascinating, by the way. It's hard to see a post from Doug Bowser thanking his direct team for how much this has impacted him. They added, "You're thanking the wrong team." Oh, good Lord. 3 months ago. On June 5th, we launched the Nintendo Switch 2, the next era in Nintendo gaming. Since then, I've enjoyed reading posts by our employees sharing their excitement and pride for achieving that milestone. Why you got to use that word, bro? You already know, Mr. He, him. The pictures, words, and emotions speak to how each of us live our mission of creating smiles. Today's announcement is a further affirmation of their hard work. Well done, everyone, and congratulations, because this is the same guy that's firing your ass and replacing you with someone in South America. Congratulations. Just 3 months ago, this guy was patting you on the back. He's like, now don't let the door hit you on the way out, you fucktard. Oh, my God. And yeah, I guess before I say I'll leave it at that, I will say this. Jay Viper, you can't convince me that man didn't get the job just because of his name. Doug Bowser, everyone. I will leave that one there.